we started last week talking about simple probability, and we're going to look a little more at what a sample space is and complementary events today. So let's go ahead and I'll share my screen. Somewhere. There it is. All right, so remember when we talk about, I'm going to go back here. We talked and we said that they are going to range from 0 to 1. So we'll never have a probability less than 0 and never greater than 1. It could be any fraction, decimal percent in between those two numbers. And we can describe events as impossible, meaning it's never going to happen. Unlikely, meaning it could happen, but more than likely won't. Equally likely or unlikely, it's a 50-50 chance. Likely, it might not happen, but more than likely will, or there's a great chance it'll happen. And certain, meaning 100%, it is definitely going to happen. All right, let's look at sample space again. So a sample space is all of the possible outcomes in an event, okay? So if I were to roll this dice right here, okay, it is a regular 6-sided dice, meaning all of the possible outcomes I could get when I roll it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Because each time I roll it, I have an equal chance of getting each one of those numbers. So that time I got a 2. When we write a sample space, we use these brackets, or you can write them as a list, or we could do a tree diagram, which we will talk about another time. Any questions about the sample space for the die? What about my spinner here? What would my sample space for the spinner be? So think about all the possible colors I could spin. Okay, there's 6 possible places it could land. I'm asking about the colors. So what are the possible colors I could get when I spin? Okay, so we have blue. I'm just going to use the letter B for blue. We have green. We have red. We have orange and purple. So my sample space is each of the possible colors I could get. So if I were to spin this time I got green, okay? I spin it again, a new event, I got green again, okay? So sample space is all of the possible outcomes or options that you could get each time you roll the die, or you spin a spinner, you draw a cube out of a bag. That is your sample space. Okay. If I wanted to know, let's say the the probability of 3 on this dice. What is the probability of rolling a 3? What is the probability of rolling a 3? Right, 1 out of 6. Because there's only 1 3 and 6 sides. All right, what is the probability of purple on my spinner? Two 6, which we could also simplify down to 1/3. Okay, because I have 2 purple sections and 6 sections total on my spinner. Any questions about this part right here? All right, let's take a look at complementary events. So a complementary event would be the opposite of what you want to happen. So if I wanted to know the probability of purple, which we calculated up here as 2 6, the complementary event would be the probability of not purple. The probability of not 3, okay, would be a complementary event. And the probabilities of 2 complementary events add up to 1, okay? So whatever the probability of my first event is, the complementary event would be 1 minus this. So 1 minus 2 6 would be 4 6. So let's take a look at an example, okay? We already found this up here. The probability of 3, you told me, is 1/6 on a die, on a regular die. If the probability of 3 is 1/6, what is the probability of not a 3? Right, 5/6, because 1 minus 1/6 would give me 5/6. So if I add up 1/6 plus 5/6, that gives me 6/6, which is 1. So these two are complementary events because they add up to 1. And that's a good way to check your work, is to make sure that what you figure out equals 1 when you add them together. Okay. What about a probability of a number less than 5? Less than 5. So think, on a standard die, remember our sample space is 1. Keep running into the thing. So our sample space is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we want to know the probability of rolling a number less than 5. So here is 5. How many numbers on the die are less than 5? So we're looking at all the numbers over here. 4. Oops. So the probability of less than 5 is 4/6, or 2/3. What about greater than or equal to 5? So how many numbers are greater than or equal to 5? 2. So greater than or equal to 5 would be 2/6 or 1/3. If I add 2/3 and 1/3, do I get 1? All right, so 2/3 plus 1/3 is 1. So these are complementary events. All right, let's do another one. The probability an odd number. What would you say the probability of an odd number is? Right. So 3/6 or 1/2. What is the complement to odd? So if I wanted to find the complementary event, instead of looking at odd numbers, we're going to look at what would the complement be for odd? So the opposite of odd is even. So the probability of even would be a complementary event. And Monica has already told me it is 3/6 because there are 3 even numbers, which is 1/2. And 1/2 plus 1/2 equals 1. So if the probability of odd is 1/2 or 50%, and the probability of even is 1/2 or 50%, how would you describe this? Impossible, unlikely, equally likely, likely, or certain? What would you say? Equally likely, because they have a 50-50 chance of happening. What about the probability of not a 3? How would you describe that one? Likely, because the closer you get to 1, the more likely it is to happen. What about the probability of a number greater than or equal to 5? How would you describe this one? Unlikely, because the closer you get to 0, the more unlikely it is to happen. Okay. Any questions about finding complementary events? All right, let's talk about your work for today. So you have a warm-up that you're going to complete. And then your main assignment is this right here. Is a simple probability experiment, and we're looking at complementary events and sample spaces. So anytime I ask you to list the sample space, you need to tell me all of the possible outcomes. So if we're talking about blue marbles, green marbles, and yellow marbles, my sample space should tell me what are the possible color marbles I can choose from. And then calculate your probabilities. This one wants to know how many possible outcomes and how did you determine your answer. So look at the spinner, how many possible outcomes and how you know, and then list your sample space. And then you're going to have some questions to answer about the spinner. So when it says describe the event, I'm looking for those words impossible, unlikely, likely, certain, equally likely, unlikely. Okay, so anytime you see describe the event, describe the complement of the event. That's what I'm looking for. That is the main assignment, and then you have an IXL assignment that you're going to do, just one lesson. And just like last time, you're going to take a screenshot of your score and upload that. And just know that I can go back and check just to make sure. And then you have your exit ticket, and that is going to be it for today. Any questions about your assignments that you have? So just like always, this will be open until